Yeah, guys, it's that time of the month to show off some of the cool heroes that people still use in Fire Emblem Heroes. Let's jump into it.
Let the lesson begin.
What's up, guys? Akariss here, bringing another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is the monthly hero review as a way for me to give back to my supporters, my community, and those that are engaged with my content. So yeah, this is where I go through a couple of heroes that my community submitted to me. I review them, maybe give some advice or tips, maybe. Depends if it's even necessary. And there's definitely a couple of unicorn heroes, as with all these batches, that people either use very creatively or just meta units, I guess. There's a good mix of both, and either way, I am happy to share that with you guys, and maybe even you guys will get some ideas out of this. Who knows? Either way, we're going to start off today's video by me asking you to smash the like button. As always, that's actually how we always do this. So just do that, and it's completely F2P. Best way to support what I do and to show love for those that also submit these characters. And yeah, so let's do that. And with that being said, the first actual hero, as we can see here, is a plus 10 legendary Marth with 10 flowers. Now, obviously, the first thing I'm going to say is bring that up to 20 flowers because Marth is pretty good now, and he definitely deserves it. Funny enough, Distant Counter is not officially like the best A skill. If you use Distant Counter, it is now going to be Distant Stance or potentially Distant Pressure. So there's actually upgrades to that, which is interesting to note. But Marth himself doesn't even really need to use something like Distant Counter. You could easily combine him with a far save tank, such as Tiki and like Earth Fire, and they kind of synergize pretty well together. So that's a pretty cool way I've seen it done. But honestly, Marth is Marth, and Marth is pretty good. With our dual Infantry 4, he ends up being pretty competitive in scoring, and Binding Shield 2 is an amazing upgrade. Of course, I've talked about Marth in my previous refined videos and a couple other places as well. Marth is in a solid place, and it's nice to see that his legendary is truly legendary. Thank you, Zetlin, for the submission. Next up, we have a Dogger submitted by PK Lemon. So this is actually a very creative take on using Dogger, if you ask me, which is to combine Dogger with Winter Bernadetta with her recoil damage, which is still a very unique mechanic of Winter Bernadetta. And by the way, we're likely going to have tickets and maybe even the Spark return on that in a couple of days. So we'll see if that could be worth a pickup for unique strategies such as this, where Dogger is literally using Ardent Sacrifice with that recoil damage on turn 2, which you can definitely do because of safe defense most of the time, and potentially even on turn 3 or 4 if you don't have high pressure from the enemy team, where you can set up stuff like this Desperation, Brash Assault combination to effectively engage on almost anything that has some sort of retaliation on her. And yeah, it ends up looking pretty good. So I definitely like this combination of skills because that is effectively like a bold fighter if the enemy can retaliate. And if it cannot, she's usually fast enough to likely do a natural double anyways. If she ends up, like this is an Initiator, Wings of Mercy, Gale Force, Enabler, because you're effectively using Ardent Sacrifice maybe 2 or 3 times, and then that'll enable a lot of other units to go in, but it also works against tons of other things. So I really like this take. I think it's quite creative, and I'm proud to show it here. Next up is a plus 10 Ascended Leg Yarn submitted by Mike. So this is his arena build, but he did mention that he had a lot of success in summoner duels with this, and I could see why, because, well, the kit on Flame and Muspel, the bow, is quite powerful if you think about it. So you have like you take advantage of enemy buffs. She ends up, doing her You Can't Deny My Double effect. You can even combine that with Wind Sweep, but in this case, Trace is far more powerful in both arena and summoner duels, if you ask me. So it's really impressive to see such a colorless cavalry unit like this in the game. I do think she probably is the best in that role, considering how powerful that weapon is. And yeah, so here it is, a nice submission by Mike. Next up is a Legendary Hector submission by Foey. And one thing I really appreciate about this is that even at a +1, Legendary Hector ends up being pretty powerful here. So this is a 57 attack with Brave Axe and Heavy Blade. He also has attack defense ideal, so this ends up being like fairly consistent if you think about it as a Wings of Mercy engager. If you don't remember, Osteopulse is effectively a times pulse on every unit, including Hector himself, as long as you're running a mixed team with no more than 2 movement types, which is really cool for something like Ether Raids, where you can definitely combine something like Brave Axe, Attack Defense Ideal, Wings of Mercy, and Heavy Blade, and have some pretty solid consistency with something like 57 attack. Thunder Armads, when I covered it in my Weapon Refine, is definitely more of an enemy phase weapon, and you really should be running something like Slaying Axe, Brave Axe, potentially even Ninja Masakari, or the other weapon that Shamir has, I can't think of it right now, but getting those weapons to effectively use Heavy Blade is a good idea, and here's definitely a good sample of that. Fire, I feel like the Fire season in general is just in a really like unique place in terms of their legendary heroes. Like they just have a really good variety of characters there, and Hector here of course is setting that example as well. Next up is a +10 winner Cecilia, which seems to be used on defense, and I actually run something quite similar without the Forma, unfortunately, because we didn't have free Formas at the time. Feels really bad, man, but it is what it is. So yeah, I run, again, pretty similar stuff to this, Courtly Mask, Form, but I love to see it, and honestly, the only suggestion I'd see here is replacing that A skill with something like Attack Defense Unity, perhaps, or even Distant Defense 4, Attack Defense Bond 4. Like there's really good options here that you can really run in the A skill that would be a slight upgrade, but nonetheless, Cecilia has been doing decent amount of work, so I feel like she is just good enough in today's game. But of course, there are better options, so Courtly Mask is definitely what carries something as cool as this. Next up is a submission by Lone Fajita, who gives us E +10 Peleus, which is about as unicorn as it gets, which also has an Ascended Floret built into there. So if you are going for that crazy max investment, well, here's one. There's literally nothing that really makes Peleus unique compared to other Red Tome infantries. Like all he has going for him is modern stat spread, but that's really it. And to be honest, even I am highly considering investment into Peleus or what was his name, Bertram, and it like totally faded up for me. I want to actually invest in the BK Bertram, Petrine, and Peleus as well, because I do like the Dane and you know, theme of that. Also, the fact that the Dawn Brigade isn't in the game is kind of sad, but hey, maybe we'll see it in time. Either way, really sweet Peleus, and I appreciate that sort of investment. Let's move on. The final one for today is actually a submission by Red Phoenix, which is the +10 La Rochelle. Now, some of you may have forgot that she even exists, but in my opinion, she's actually quite good. The thing that really I feel is underappreciated with La Rochelle is that she's actually quite bulky and fast, which is fairly rare, like especially for a blue tome. Like Reinhardt has the bulk, but he doesn't have the speed, and that is the biggest discrepancy between La Rochelle and Reinhardt. So seeing La Rochelle as a +10 is something I can definitely appreciate, because not only does Evaldi give like the +3 defense randomly as it's like extra stat boost, but it actually has like attack minuses as well to make her even bulkier. She has speed, which also works as like a defensive stat against anything that isn't running like QR or QR effects. So I can appreciate this La Rochelle and the fact that other blue tomes do exist besides Reinhardt. So yeah, that basically covers that one. Okay guys, so this is this month's, December's month of the hero review and submissions. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing some of these, maybe even gathering some ideas for yourself. And if you want to take part in this and, you know, show your support for the content I produce, maybe get a chance at next month's submissions, then do check out the Patreon, which is up there on the left and in the description below. That is the way to do it. Of course, you could also check me out on Twitch. Prime subs are free, and of course there's a YouTube member button. So all of those, if you do end up doing that, you can check out my Discord and maybe make a submission for yourself to end up in one of these future videos. It's not really that hard. I feel like I've covered most people who've made a submission at this point, so realistically, if you do end up supporting the content, there's a good chance you just end up in either the next one or the video after. It's really not much to ask. Thank you for you guys who do check it out and end up doing something like that. It means a lot to me, and I will see you in the next video. Look out for some more detailed guides, of course, news and analysis as I always do. Much love. Thank you all. See you in the next one. Peace.
It's over.